Anyway, like Scotty said, this is my 10th year as the head coach. I've been doing this for 27 years, and sometimes people ask me, how long you've been teaching and coaching, and it's kind of hard to believe that they said that I'm doing it for 27 years. And sometimes they ask me how long I've been married, and I tell them, well, I've been married happily 25 years, but my wife has only been happily married 22 years. And they say, well, why is that? And I said, well, the first 3 years that I was married, I was kind of busy. I think Monday I had volleyball league. Tuesday I shot pool, Wednesday and Friday I had softball, Thursday and Sunday I had baseball, and lo and behold there was one day left, and that was for her. That was only if we didn't have a City League basketball tournament or a softball tournament or a baseball tournament, something like that. So I had to change my ways after about 3 years, and things have been great ever since. But anyway, getting back to basketball, just the coaching staff. Some of you know these guys and some of you don't, but Arlen Lickness has been with me 10 years now, and he's still with me, being the assistant and also the JV coach. Chris Haynes has been with us 3 years. He was the freshman coach for the last two, and now he moved up to the sophomore ranks because Jason Oswald decided that farming was more lucrative than teaching and coaching, and so he left, and Haynes moved up, and then Adam Tyhurst, a guy who is actually came from, I think it was Oregon, Wally? Is that right? Oregon. Eastern Oregon. He was with the college ranks, small college out in Eastern Oregon. And his connection to the area, I think, is his wife is Rocky Johnston's daughter. And so that's the connection there. Rocky is kind of a painter from Wakanda, I believe, and does some other things as well. But that's the high school staff. And then 8th grade would be Mike Michelson and Chris Hovden. 7th grade is Doug Haar, Jason Savvy. 6th grade, Brett Simon, Brady Muth, and then 5th grade is Cody Lucas and Bob Muth. And that's correct, that's Bob Muth. He's doing 5th grade. Brings a lot of expertise from San Diego, where he was originally from back then. But anyway, that's kind of our staff. Just a little bit about last year. We ended up losing 7 seniors from last year's squad. 4 of them were starters, and it's always kind of tough when you lose some leadership, especially all the seniors that we had last year. And also last year, one thing that I'm glad that we have lost is most of our small size. We were definitely vertically challenged last year. I think the biggest guy that we started and played a lot was 6'2", and smaller, and so that was a little bit more difficult for us. And then obviously coupled with the fact that we're always trying to match up with the size that we had, and then if we were a little cold offensively, we seemed to struggle at times. So, but we're very, very excited about this year's team. I think we had a great summer. This was a summer that I think a lot of the kids really put some time and effort in, and we decided to have some open gyms during the week, early on in the morning, like 9 o'clock, and a lot of guys seemed to show up for that, so that was good. And almost all the guys that we have on the varsity squad, and even some lower level kids, were showing up for all of them, so that was a good thing. We've had some great practices. We started a week ago Monday, so just been going about a week and a half, 8 days here. So I think we've really been coming together as a team, and I think the guys that we have this year are really, really smart. Not that the guys last year weren't, but these guys really understand the game of basketball. And anybody that's coached out there knows that if you got people that understand the game and know what they're doing, you don't have to coach quite as much. You just kind of let them do their thing, and I think that's going to happen this year. Another thing that we have this year that we didn't really have a whole lot of last year is experience. Even though we only had, 1.5 starters back from last year, all the seniors that we have back have actually played and got a lot of experience last year on last year's squad. So we end up having a total of 13 players on this year's varsity squad. Sophomores we have 12, and I think the freshmen we're at 19. But of the 5 seniors, and this is probably the way we'll go to start out with for our first game this coming Friday. It's Connor Fitzsimmons. He'll be our one-man handling the ball, and he was our starter for most of the year last year. Brian Youngberg is going to be playing our 2 spot, and he started periodically last year. He's a good scorer, knows the game of basketball. Jackson Seitzinger is the guy who's going to be our 3-man, and he's been really, really impressive in practice. Been scoring a lot of points for us, and just looking really, really sharp. And then 4-man's probably going to be Jackson Pasco, who's done a lot of good things in practice so far up to this point. And then Connor Blossom will probably start for us at the post position, about 6'5". And I said, we're not quite as vertically challenged this year as we were last year. We measured all the guys last week and measured them all with their shoes off. and they were all disappointed at how tall they were because they didn't have their shoes on. So that's the way I listed them in the program with their shoes off, so we may be a little bit bigger than what it says in the program. But that's kind of for Gary Munson, by the way. And anyway, Connor Fitzsimmons, like I said, he's about 5'7". Youngberg's about 6'1". Seitzinger's about 6 foot. Pasco's 6'1". These are all roughly with their shoes off. And Blossom's about 6'5". And then we bring in, we've got 7 juniors and a sophomore that round out the squad. A couple of the other guys are going to see a lot of playing time would be Kellen Solek. He is pretty much a nice big bruiser. He's about 260 right now. We shaved about 10 pounds off of him since we started practice, and he's about 6'4", 260, and once he gets down on the block, he's hard to move. And so he'll definitely be seeing a lot of action. He won't be playing any JV. I told that to Arlen, and he almost started crying, but that's the way it is. Michael Rucker, the quarterback of the football team, is going to see a lot of action. He'll probably play a little bit of JV, but a little bit of varsity as well. Probably 3-3 to start things out. J.J. Haynes is a sophomore kid that is very, very athletic. He's about 6'3". We moved him up, kind of like on the football squad as well, played on the varsity, and he'll be doing that with us as well. Maybe playing a little JV action too to get his feet wet a little bit. And then we have Troy Hunoff, who's about 6'2", pretty good size. Is a pretty solid player, and I see him coming in and maybe giving some breaks to the other guys. On the other 4 that we have, Drew Konopasek, who's about 5'7", a quick little guard, pretty good shooter. Zach Benjamin, our smallest player on the team at 5'4", but very, very quick, lefty, so I really like him because he's a lefty. And but he's, like I said, pretty quick and does a lot of good things. Sam Wenny is another one. He's about 5'9", and then the last guy to round out our squad is Andrew Hummel. And he's a kid that really hasn't played much this year because he had a shoulder injury, and he's going to be back after Christmas, and I think that he'll see some playing time as well because he's a pretty good little point guard and does a lot of good things. We open this Friday against Brookings. I think Brookings is going to be a pretty good squad. You know, they've got Landon Bush, who's a quarterback on the football team, very good basketball player. They have a kid by the name of Odegaard, Tanner Odegaard. Some of you saw him play last year. He shoots from about 25, 26 feet away from the basket. Kind of a funny story that I heard about him. He was working at school, and he was in building trades, and this is just a rumor, I don't know if it's true or not, but he was walking around on the roof, and he fell through the roof. One of the sheeting pieces was a little rotten or something, fell through the roof and landed down on the main floor and hurt a few bones and a few other things. And so I heard that he was going to be out for 5 to 6 weeks. Again, that's just rumor, so I don't know. If he's not playing, it doesn't show up, that's why, because he fell through the roof at the building trades house in Brookings. But then they have a Doherty kid who's back, who's about 6'3". They have 2 Nagy kids. One's a sophomore, one's a senior. Both Coach Nagy's kids from South Dakota State, and they're both pretty good little players. And then they have a Vanderbush kid that's about 6'5", who played last year a little bit. So I think we'll be able to match up with those guys really well. You know, and looking at just quickly glancing through the rosters for all the teams here, you know, about half the ESD teams and half the overall teams in the state we match up with pretty good, and then the other half we don't as well, because there's a lot of teams that have a lot of big players. I know, like I said, Brookings will match up with okay on Tuesday, and then we go have our first home game against Sioux Falls, Washington, and I know they've got a 6'5" kid, a 6'7" kid, and a 6'9" kid. That's at Washington. Then we go to Watertown Thursday of next week. Then Saturday we go to Brandon Valley. And I think both of those teams will match up with pretty well. And then the last game before the end of the year is Tuesday at home against Mitchell. And I know Mitchell is pretty much loaded. They've got a ton of guys, a ton of recruits are in for them. And I think they've got 3 6'7" kids, a 6'6" kid, a 6'5" kid, and some other, I mean, they're the real deal. And they're going to be tough to beat this year. And, you know, I just went through our first 5 games. Those are 5 games in 12 days, so we'll see right where we're at right away, because we, like I said, play all those games in a short amount of time. ESD, I'd say Mitchell, like I said, Pierre's going to be pretty good as well. They've got a kid by the name of Zach Hansen who's 6'9". They've got a Tetzloff kid who's about 6'8". And then they have another kid, a junior, who is about 6'5", a Severin kid who's very, very talented, very, very good. So those 2 teams probably in the ESD are kind of the favorites. The GDC, You know, I think all the Sioux Falls schools are going to be good. I know Gorman won it last year. They don't have as much size as they've had, but I looked at their roster and they've got 19 guys on there, so I think they're just trying to find out who can play for them and who can't. Sioux Falls Lincoln is going to be pretty good. They might be the best out of the Sioux Falls schools. They've got a 6'7" kid, 2 6'6" kids, and a 6'5" kid. And then Roosevelt's not going to be bad either. And you know, you talk about Sioux Falls schools and all the recruiting that they do, and they definitely do that. I know the open enrollment is supposed to be for academics, but a lot of times it's for athletics. And a good case in point was the head coach from Sioux Falls, Washington, Hermanson, was going to think about quitting, and he was maybe going to quit this year, and then they did win it. And he said that he was going to stay around another year because of the recruits that came over that didn't really get the winning experience, so he's going to stay around another year. So we'll see how that goes, I guess. But the best team out west, I'm not real sure on that. I know it's not going to be Douglas, and it's probably not going to be Sturgis. It's obviously Central and Stevens. Both those teams have a few people that are returning for them, so don't really know who's going to be, like I said, tops out there. I do know this, you know, we normally, in the past years, have went out and played both teams. But this year, since the budget cuts happened, we're basically just going to play one team out west. Now, we were going to try and get it set up where we're not going to play at all to save money and all that kind of stuff. But before all the opt-out and all that stuff happened, we had a contract that was signed with Rapid City Central. And Rapid City Stevens got a new athletic director, and he didn't get the contract signed or anything until after this happened with us. And so that's why we're going to play Rapid City Central only and not Rapid City Stevens. It's just going to be a varsity contest with the boys and a varsity contest with the girls. I think it's January 21st on a Saturday. So we're going to drive out Saturday morning, play our 2 games. Girls go first, I think, and then the boys in the afternoon, and then we're going to drive back. And so we're saving on, obviously, rooms and all that stuff. So it's going to be a great trip, I just know it. But anyway, but other than that, that's kind of about what I have. I haven't played a game yet, so hopefully we'll be ready to go against this Friday against Brookings. So.